Hi.
Hi, we are doing it's my turn this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our Monday episode. And did you notice last week we were back on track?
Woohoo! Hopefully we will be this week, even though we're recording on Sunday.
That's okay. We're early on a Sunday.
I was behind. I delivered on my promise from my last terrible trend, and I did this episode on executioners and executions and that stuff. So I did a deeper dive that I've been doing, and I think I got some pretty good information.
Cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
My hair, Margaret and I went to a bonfire last night. My hair still smells like...
I took a shower and my hair still smells like smoke.
I did not.
I showered. I had to because I'm like, I smell like smoked ham. I have to get the smell out of my hair. And it's funny, like when we used our wood stove regularly, we always smelled like that, and you don't think about it.
Well, it's all the time.
And then I'm like sleeping. I'm like, I don't know if I can sleep because I keep smelling myself.
Your own hair, yeah.
I'm like, I smell like smoke. It's like, I think I'm camping. And then it was like, as soon as I got up, like, I got to take a shower. Of course, my back is hurting today, and that's like one thing that makes your back feel better is a hot shower on it. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it's fun.
Yeah,
it was so much fun, and my throat's a little rough because we were singing.
Yeah,
and
it was fun.
It was great. Somebody was playing guitar, and we were all singing. It was wonderful.
We had a good time.
That's my type of bonfire.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Chill, sing songs, hang out.
It was great.
It's that time of year where you would just want to do that stuff.
And it wasn't
outside.
Too hot. It was cool out. It was awesome.
Yeah, and today it's only 70, and it's breezy, and it's like the best summer weather for me, in my opinion. This is perfect.
This is what June is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be
85.
No, it's supposed to be 70 with a cool breeze where you feel like, ooh, do I need a jacket?
Yeah.
I want to wear a jacket. Like that's my favorite weather is jacket weather.
Or like a cardigan.
Or
I love
hoodie.
a cardigan or a hoodie.
Or a nice hoodie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm loving that.
Mm-hmm.
I took my kids on a little nature hike yesterday. There's this great little nature preserve type thing near my house. And we get there, we're the only car in the parking lot, and we're walking around in the woods, and we're the only people there. And you keep hearing these noises. You're like, I watched
too much.
I listened to
crime.
Too much true crime podcasts.
True crime will make you.
Oh my god,
nuts.
what is wrong with me? I have my two little kids and me walking around in the
woods
woods
by ourselves.
At least we had cell service. Like
that's
where
good.
this is located, there's cell phone service, which is pretty awesome. But it was interesting. Yeah. And then I'm like, next time I come here, I gotta make sure I have like some kind of pepper spray or a utility knife or something. If somebody tries to kill us, I have like protection. And it kind of was like, okay, girls, let's walk a little faster.
I would be the same way. And the first thing you said to me when you're like, I was like, oh god, that would make me like normally, all the true crime I listen to makes me. But you know what?
Normally when
question.
we've gone there before, we've had somebody else with us, like my mom, or
you didn't think as much of it,
or a friend of mine has gone with me, and it's just like it's just me and my kids.
Yeah,
I'm like. Even if it was a bear in there, because there's bear around there. Yeah, my parents had a bear in their backyard. It killed Ruby's inflatable pool that my mom got her. Damn bear
went in swimming.
Yeah, he popped the pool. So and he got caught on my dad's neighbor across the road asked if he could put wildlife like game cameras in his backwoods, and he caught a bear on it like 6 feet from my parents' house.
Right, which is crazy.
It's like, oh, he's probably, but maybe he's been there the whole time and nobody's known.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it makes you think a little more. It's like, I don't think my kids need to be anywhere outside by themselves. Not that they are anyway, but.
Right. Makes you second guess being out back.
Yes.
At night.
Fresh
alone.
air. Fresh air is
for dead people,
according to Morbid. And
yeah,
I sometimes agree with that.
Sometimes, although I do love the fresh air and I love being outside.
But I mean, honestly, me and my mom and my two little kids,
not much different.
Than me and my two kids. I'm like, but the fact that there was 4 of us out,
it's harder. Well, the more people you have, the harder it is to take one down. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's more of a roadblock or
yes,
whatever that would stop you. Second guess. Oh, there's 4 of them I got to deal with instead of just 3 of them.
2 women are easily controlled by the 2 little children that are with them.
Yes,
and that's like what you think in your brain. You're like, oh my god.
Oh god. All right.
So now that I have nightmares, but yeah, that was we had a fun outing even though I got paranoid. Like
I would have been paranoid the second I pulled up.
I was like, "Oh, yay, we're the only ones here!" And then we're walking, and you hear weird noises, and it's just animals. And then you're like, "Wait a minute, is somebody?"
Well, that's like when we went to my husband and I went to see the Abbott brothers last weekend, and we stayed at only place we could get was a bed and breakfast 30 minutes away. So I was like, all right, well, we'll do that. And it was really pretty, the pictures were, but we pull up, I didn't see the outside of it, so I didn't know what it looked like on the outside. We pull up, we're out in the middle of nowhere, like in a field. And you pull in, and it looks like abandoned. Like, we redid the inside, and they're working on the outside. So it looks like this abandoned farmhouse. Like, a huge mansion, though. Like, giant. Like, very much 1800s giant farmhouse. And when my husband's like, you sure this is where we're supposed to be? And this little German guy comes out. Or no, he was Russian. And he, like, oh, my wife sent me a text that you're here. Oh, just go in. You can go to that room at the top of the stairs. And we go in, and it is haunted. I don't care what anyone says. You could tell that place was haunted walking out to it. You could feel it inside that there was ghosties in there. My husband was, like, so, like creeped out by the place that he either thought they were human traffickers or the ghosts are going to get us. Like, some way we're going to get killed in this trip. To the point where after the concert was over, he was like, let's just go get our stuff and go home. I'm like, it's 11:30 at night, Richard. I am tired. So I'm like, I got to charge my phone. We both fell asleep. So we stayed. But no ghosts. But I said, I slept so hard that I probably disappointed the ghosts. Because they probably tried to scare me in the middle of the night. And I just, like, slept through all of it.
Did you sleep there one night or 2 nights?
Just one.
Just the one night?
Yeah, because we came back the next day. But it was just funny. My husband totally was creeped out by it. He's like, no, I don't like it. He's not one for scary. He only can watch scary movies in the daytime.
I never knew
like,
that.
And you would never know that looking at him, the big burly man he is, like, he would not want to be a part of this kind of thing. But he, like, has a hard time even listening to the spooky stuff. Like, he does it, he's like, I don't want to, nope. So, it was funny. But that's the thing. True crime has ruined me because I was thinking, my God, we're either it's haunted or someone's going to kill us here. Because it looks like we're pulling up to, like, Texas Chainsaw, but nicer.
It's like
know?
H.H. Holmes.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah. But we lived. And actually the next morning, the nice Russian man that him and his wife own it, and we learned about his life and, like, he's from the Ukraine, and he was really interesting and fascinating. We ate breakfast. There's another 2 guys that stayed there that went to the Baseball Hall of Fame that were super nice. The one came and ate breakfast with us, and actually was really cool. But daytime's way different than nighttime. You know what I mean? That feeling changes.
I would totally
anyway, all right.
Okay, so this is my episode on executioners and different forms of execution and some botched executions and how they went.
Fun.
A little backstory on some people. So, okay, so executioners are also called a hangman or a headsman. I know that was because they either hang you or they chop your head off.
Yeah, makes sense.
It is a profession. The profession of execution was, for the most part, a family business. This title would be passed down from father to firstborn son. Okay. So it was a familiar thing, like it's in the family.
So just family like royalty,
business.
But...
Yeah, like Supernatural, but with killing people.
Gotcha.
Yeah, not just demons and stuff, The daughters, like, in the family, the daughters would marry other executioners. So, like, if your dad's an executioner, your life is to find and marry an executioner. That's gotta be real fun.
You have to do that.
That's what normally happened.
Wow.
Like, way back when. And the younger sons, they would either become an executioner in a town where they needed an executioner, or they would just assist their older brothers in executions. It would be the assistants. So it's like your life and your children's life are just executions. They really have no choice.
No choices.
And I think that's why. But it was like, think of it, it was like a trade passed down. So It wasn't like these were uneducated. They were educated in the fact that they knew a lot about, like, anatomy, and because that's like when you have to know where to cut, draw and quarter somebody. You got to know parts of the anatomy and the way to do that the best way. In 1741, Jean-Baptiste François Carrier was appointed executioner of Nantes after his father's death, and he was only 3 months old.
He was the executioner at 3 months.
At 3 months old.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So it's like, that's like how
how
it's like being the king at 3 months. How can that 3-month-old be the executioner?
Is there a regent for him?
Probably the brothers of the executioner would probably be, or they would have a son from another executioner come and fill in
until that child was old enough to do it.
Right. So, as cities started to grow in population, there were laws made regarding the executioner and his family, and that would be regarding how and where they could live their lives.
Okay.
Even to the point of who he was allowed to touch and where he could go.
Wow.
Right. And in many places, the executioner and his family were not allowed to live in the city or enter in the city only on specified days or specified places, because they were considered they were definitely outcasts.
Right. You didn't. It was probably felt like they were cursed. Like if you got too close to them, it would rub off. Or something.
Yeah. And the family was required to attend church, and they would have a specific pew that they were allowed to sit in, and they were not to mingle with the people.
So they were very much the family was isolated.
I mean, and it's like if you have a wife and you have kids and your daughters can't meet boys from town, like no boy's gonna want to marry the executioner's daughter.
And they can't even have friends.
No, there's within
That's
the family.
sad.
I know. Some of the perks of being the executioner were you got to torture people. That's part of your job was torturing. Yeah,
fun. Sign me up.
And you get to kill the condemned.
Good times.
Something called, I'm going to butcher this because I looked it up on how to say it in French. It's basse ouvrier, which is what they would call lower or menial work. An example of that would be the exclusive right to clean cesspools.
Ew!
And they got to keep anything they found in the cesspool.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That makes me want to do it.
Yeah, they found all kinds of valuable stuff in there. The right to claim stray animals and ownership of animal carcasses found in the street. So that was when he was allowed to go in the city, was when he had to clean up dead animals.
And he'd keep it.
But he get to keep the carcass, which would have valuable fur or skin.
Right.
So, yeah, you get to, I get a rotting animal carcass.
I guess if you're drawing quartering people, you don't mind that.
Management over social pariahs.
Oh, good.
So, the lepers and the prostitutes, you were like the head honcho of them.
Oh.
Which gave you the ability to collect taxes from them. Because you're like, the executioner and his family are pariahs, but they're like the elite pariahs.
Yeah.
Because they have money
the king
and education.
Of pariahs.
And they have control over the other people. Like, people that got banished from town, like the lepers and the prostitutes and the infirm and things like that. The droit d'élevage, which actually means right to dip into. So this means that it entitled them to a portion of all the goods from the market vendors and carts that passed through the city, which earned them scorn from the villagers. So basically, the executioner had a right to take part of the goods from anybody that would come in with a cart. If they had a cart full of vegetables, he'd get some of them.
Oh.
If they're selling leather, he'd get some of it. If they were selling anything that they were selling, he had a portion of either what they pay him in money or goods. So this made them wealthy, but they were scorned.
Like the people are like, "Thanks for taking my hard-earned money."
Right, and I mean, the other people are like, why do they get it? Why is that fair? They're horrible people that murder people. Like, why do they get part of the money? So they were just like outcasts. Mm-hmm. Like they were on the outside, like 100%. Even though they had wealth, they were ostracized for the wealth they had. So they were educated at home in their trade. They learned about local laws and their role in society as well as anatomy. In some places, they were the only physicians. So if somebody got hurt or they broke a leg, they would take them to the executioner to set the leg, because the executioner knows about anatomy, because he needs to know how to kill people. So like for some places, especially if the physician, they couldn't get to the physician, they would go to the executioner, which is just awful.
I know, right?
But
it's like going to a mortician if you didn't have a doctor in your town.
But even
they're not
nowadays, aren't people. Like the people who administered lethal injections, aren't they doctors?
I think they have to be, right?
Yeah. To know they might not pull the switch, but they're the ones that adjust everything. So I mean, that kind of makes sense, I guess. They were trained in how to kill efficiently, as most executions were public and had to be carried out seamlessly.
Right.
You know,
it was entertainment for people,
right,
which is horrible.
The superstitious crowd would take anything out of the ordinary as an act of God, because this is the times, you know. And in Germany, the executioner was allowed 3 strikes, and if it didn't succeed, he would take the place of the condemned.
Oh, so they meant business. Like, if you can't do it, then you're dead.
You get 3 tries, and if you can't do it, then guess what? We get to cut your head off.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then what if that person can't do
I know,
it?
it's like a
never-ending
thing of beheadings.
So they had to really build up their strength.
Yeah. The invention of the guillotine saw the slow downfall for the need of a highly trained executioner, and were mostly disassembled by the late 19th century. Like, with the invention of the guillotine, it made it so anybody could be the executioner. There wasn't any training. Right. It was just they didn't know how to work the machine.
Just like a factory.
And so, like, at that time, it definitely led to, like, there not being a need for somebody with the title of executioner. Right. So they saw them falling behind. There were quite a few famous executioners too. And I'm not going to get into that here, but I'm going to make a special episode for our Patreons.
Ooh, a Patreon episode.
About the famous executioners.
Nice. You better become a Patreon for that one.
Great Britain outlawed public executions in 1868, and it wasn't done in France until the 20th century.
Wow.
And you can see photographs of the last public exexecution, and it was a guillotine. And they used the guillotine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were all about the guillotine. They invented the guillotine, right? The French?
I think I'd get into it.
Okay.
Yeah. And the office of executioner was phased out after World War II. Many European nations outlawed capital punishment after World War II.
Oh, right.
So, like, they don't do the death penalty.
And they probably, it was like so much death.
I think,
everyone was just like, we can't keep doing this death business.
And I think it was after, like, they did all the, I can't remember, the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah.
And I think it was after that, people were like, I think we're done.
We need to not do this.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm going to talk about different forms of executions that executioners would do, things they needed to know how to do. Where there's hanging, which obviously that's a slow strangulation. Mm-hmm. It just happens. The next thing was beheading. Okay, but hanging was done for the masses. You get caught stealing, you're just a regular person, you get hung. Beheading was a privilege, save for nobility and royalty. It required skill to behead someone in one chop. The axe must be sharp and the block steady. The blocks were carved specifically for the purpose of beheading, and there were hollows for the shoulders and the chin, so that when somebody would kneel down in front of it, and some of them, most of the time, they were about 3 feet high, so when a person was kneeling, they could just lean their head over, and their chin fit in the notch, and their shoulders fit in the notch, and it stretched their neck, so that it made it so they could just whack.
Ugh.
It was a wooden block.
So gross. All I think of is Ned Stark.
Yes, and but he was chopped off with a sword. They beheaded him with a sword, and that's a different type of beheading with a sword.
There's the axe. Is what you're
the axe. Like some of them, the block was low, and it almost made them have to lay prone out on the ground.
Oh wow!
So and with all beheadings, and I think it was because they were noblemen for the most part, and it was seen as an more honorable form of death than hanging. They would give a signal when they were ready. So, like, as soon as they either would put their arms out to the side or they would wave their hand, usually it was when they put their arms out, meant they were ready, and then the executioner could, like, I'm ready for you to chop my head off!
Chop it off!
Jeez, it's just like...
I just lay there with my arms real tight to get
like, I'm never ready.
I'm never going to be ready for this.
But it was like, everybody's watching, so they wanted to show that they had honor.
Right.
So, they needed to be honorable, and they didn't want to be cowardly.
Right.
Another form of execution would be boiling to death.
Oh God!
Yes, and this was done. Like this was like you're.
I don't want that happening, ever.
Yeah, you're condemned to be boiled to death.
No, yeah. I'd rather get my head chopped off. Thank you.
It would be a large cauldron, would be filled with water or oil or tallow.
Oh.
And sometimes the victim would be placed in it first, and then it would be heated slowly.
No!
Or it would already be boiling, and they would be plunged in head first.
No!
Or, alternatively, they would be placed in a shallow pot of boiling oil and fried to death.
No!
Like a spring roll.
I would, try to escape so they'd kill me in the process of trying to escape. Before I could get there.
Or a lot of people would try to commit suicide in the jail cell. Yeah.
That's what, why would you want that? No one wants that.
That's the worst. And that was safe for real bad people, like people who, usually treason, either drawing and quartering or boiling in oil. Burned at the stake. This was saved for heretics, sorceresses, witches, and women.
Of course, because we're all a bunch of witches, which, yes, we are.
Right. And sometimes bags of gunpowder would be tied to arms or between legs to speed up the process.
No.
And they would sometimes have a rope around their neck or a chain so they could be choked to death before they caught on fire, which is probably way more humane than actually being alive.
Burning alive.
And they would try to do it quickly. And, a lot of the botched burnings at the stakes were because they didn't catch on fire fast enough and they slowly cooked.
Terrible.
Awful. A more modern forms of execution are like the electric chair, firing squad, the gas chamber, lethal injection. And I'm not really going to go into those because I'm sticking more to old-timey things.
Old-timey.
Yeah. Even though firing squad was around for a while.
Yeah.
And it stayed around for a while.
Probably still is done.
I'm sure it is.
Countries and
definitely.
things, yeah.
And we'll go to the guillotine.
The guillotine.
It could kill. They timed it in Paris during the Great Revolution there. It could kill 12 victims in 13 minutes.
Holy cow.
20 in 42 minutes. 300 in 3 days, or 1,300 in 6 weeks. 1,300 people.
Now the basket that caught the head, how many heads they keep? Like when they did it in 3
They would fill the head up, and then they would switch it out for a new one and
basket.
get rid of the head.
I wonder how many heads fit in a basket.
I don't know. I didn't read that.
Interesting.
Hanging. Go back to hanging. The slow strangulation, like I said, the hangman would often allow family, friends, or servants of the hanged to pull on their legs to quicken the process. Because at first it was literally like they would be either in a cart or on a stool,
removed,
or like they would build a gallows and put a ladder, lean the ladder up against to it, and then they would have the condemned person to climb up the ladder. The executioner sitting on the beam, wrap the thing around their head and kick away the ladder, so they just slowly strangle. It takes a while.
Yeah, it's awful.
And
you lose your poo and your pee, and it's awful.
Yeah, and or they would sit on a stool and they'd take the stool out. And that was like the more rudimentary forms of hanging. So that's why they would sometimes allow the family to come pull their legs on, and it would choke them out faster.
Right.
It would like completely cut off their windpipe instead of the slow way that they usually did it.
Well, isn't that nice of them?
And then, once they were dead, the body would be left for an hour after they stopped twitching, and then they would cut them down. Just to make sure they were good and dead.
That's awful.
It is. Eventually, a trapdoor was used, and it was operated by a lever. And it was